everybody. Carol here with Aspergers versus Neurotypicals, and today I was watching a really nice video on YouTube, and the question came up, why is red lucky in Chinese? And the person didn't know the answer, but I immediately knew the answer, or at least I thought I knew the answer, and I think I know the answer. Why would red be lucky for an ancient culture, and why would it be lucky for millennia? Well, if you think about hunting, gathering, what's a lucky find? Red berries, of course. And so, yeah, if you see red berries, you're going to feel lucky because you found red berries in a garden filled with thorns and bears and other dangers. And if you find red berries before the bears get to them, you're lucky. Well, it led me to the thought that what is a natural phenomenon in humans is for us to develop symbiotically with the earth, just like all organisms on the earth do. And this is something that most of us don't really think about, but for life to exist, it develops symbiotically with its surroundings. And if you don't have a symbiosis with your environment, you'll either die off or you'll destroy your environment, and then you'll die off because then you won't have your environment to support you. So you could call it a fish soiling its own pond, or a bird destroying its own nest, or humans destroying their environment. But what happened was that over the millennia that animals and mammals and humans developed, we developed a sense that red was lucky, and it's sort of an inherent feeling that we want to reach for the red berry. That's just ingrained in our brain because our brain-body system developed to survive. And there's a lot of other things that we developed over the millennia that helped humans to survive, such as kindness and loving our babies that helped the baby survive and helped the mother take care of it. And like everything that we do, you could probably trace it back to ancient, anthropological development of humans. And I don't want to say evolutionary because, now we know Darwin is only partially right, and epigenetics is like much more consequential than evolution as Darwin proposed it. But if you let me loosely use the term evolution, our evolution with the environment, our symbiosis. But all of a sudden, when the Industrial Revolution started, all those pre-installed programs, all those evolutionary developed tendencies for us to be attracted to red and to love sweet foods because they're so rare, and to love fatty foods because, again, they're so rare and our body needs them for our brain development. All those software things are still there for most of the humans, but our environment's not the same anymore. And so now when you eat sweet things, it's pretty often it's toxic, like donuts. Those are processed, trans fats, and the wrong kind of fats, too much omega-6, not enough omega-3. So we don't have that natural environment anymore. So all of our sensory awareness things and all the things that we're drawn for that make us happy, if that's all we followed, we would die off pretty quickly. And you can see that happening now with the rate of diseases rising because of the poor American diet, for example. But what I'm proposing is that there's like a new group of humans being born now, and I'm going to call them, because the old humans are the ones that were evolutionary developed, okay, that were here pre-industrial society. Then when the industrial society came along, the symbiosis and its need to exist, life's need to exist, determined and required a new type of human to be born. And the only thing we can do now is survive based on our instincts and or our intellectual gathering of knowledge. For example, if your instincts are poor, but you're in a family that's rich enough to send you to college and you choose to study physics and chemistry and biochemistry and biology and anthropology, you're just a knowledge-hungry person, or maybe your parents just made you learn to love learning, you're going to know what foods are healthy. And so you'll go to those foods and you'll eat those foods, because knowledge is power. And if you know how bad certain foods are, you just naturally avoid them, because it would be crazy to eat them, right? But if you are brought up eating donuts, then you think that's like a food group. You think that's like a main staple, and you'll grow up eating donuts and you won't realize it, but you'll die a young death because you'll get diabetes and that sort of thing, or maybe a low quality life. So, but most of us in this world don't have parents that are rich enough or smart enough to like give us that education. And so the ones, in the majority of the humans in the world, the ones that will survive will be the ones that have a new kind of sense, a new kind of sensory system. And that's what I call the new humans that are being born, that they rely on their gut feel and their instincts and their newly acquired sensory abilities. And so these new humans have new sensory abilities. And let me just cover some of these and see if you recognize any of these sensory abilities in yourself. And see if you feel like you have these sensory abilities, but most of the people around you don't. And that's why sometimes you either stand out or get ridiculed, because you're so different. But really it's an evolutionary advantage, and I'll say why. But and not all sensory or new human abilities are advantageous. Because, for example, if you were born with Down syndrome, you might need help to survive, because you don't have like the mental ability to file your income tax, so you might have to get help. But if you are just a normal IQ person and you have these sensory abilities, you'll have an advantage in terms of surviving on the earth, because you'll be equipped with some tools that regular people don't have. And what I call the regular people, those are the old humans, the ones that still have the pre-programmed software, and they're the ones that are drawn to sweets and just eat them because they taste good, and don't really have that ability to feel if something is right. So let's go through some of these senses. So gut feel is one, where you just sense that something is dangerous, or you sense that someone is dishonest, or you sense that something bad's about to happen, and then it happens, and you knew ahead of time, so you got out of the way, for example. So the gut feel, and that would also be called intuition. It's not magic at all. It's really the dance of all your senses, reading the environment around you. So you're able to read your environment like in orders of magnitude more precision. Let's talk about each of our common senses. Like if you think about dogs and how they can smell things that humans can't even fathom, well, I think some of these new humans have olfactory senses in your nose that you're able to smell like a dog can smell, or at least approaching that. So some of these new sensory awarenesses can be explained by science. It's just that the old humans won't believe you if you say you can smell a cigar a mile away, because they can't. And so they don't really think about that, oh, well, a dog can do it, so why couldn't another human do it? They don't think that far out of the box. But I'm just pointing it out that if a dog can do it, then it's scientifically possible. And so I'm asserting, and from experience, I'm saying that it's true that I can't smell very, very small quantities of things. And it's almost like I can smell it and taste it at the same time, and other people won't, but I'll be able to. I can taste and smell ozone before it even gets to the yellow level, like green is good. But I can tell the ozone's getting higher before it even shifts to the yellow level, which is the moderate level. And I don't know anyone else that can, but I know they're out there. And like my throat will tickle and hurt, and I can like smell it in my nose. And then I'll go online, and sure enough, it's in the high range of the green level. So I think it's like mid, like 60, whatever the units are, parts per million of ozone, like the bad ozone and low levels of the atmosphere, not out in the sky. That's the good ozone, but the bad ozone is what I'm talking about. That's formed in pollution days when it's really hot and there's a lot of sunshine and there's a lot of cars making nitric oxide, which reacts with the sunlight and the UV and blah, 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 makes ozone. But I diverge on that. Just looking at some of my notes, because I kind of got this insight this morning, all from that question about why is red lucky in Chinese philosophy. So humans are now being born, since the Industrial Revolution began, to have a keen inner intelligence based on our highly tuned sensory capabilities. So we have a very sensitive, not we, okay, yes, I'm a new human, but see if you are too. We have very sensitive nervous systems. So that would include all of our senses. And we have a lot more neurons, not only in the brain, but I hypothesize possibly more neurons in the skin too, and other organs, so that we have a visceral sense of our organs and can feel the pain before maybe someone else could feel it. So you know that your liver's congested because you can feel it, for example. And our skin can pick up more things than others, than the old humans can. And we have a lot more neurons now. Simon Bernard Cohen measured this with MRI studies of Aspergers versus regular people back in the 90s, and he noticed that the Aspergers had a lot more neurons. I think he said 60% more neurons, and then not only that, but more interconnections between the different brain regions. About 10 times more interconnections than what we call the neurotypicals, or what I'm calling in this video the old humans. So you can detect more, and you can detect odors, for example, and then your eyes can pick up lighting at higher and higher frame rates. So maybe if someone else can detect 30 frames per second, the new human can probably detect between 300, 3,000, and in some cases 30,000 and higher frame rates. And by detecting it, I mean in your peripheral vision you can tell, you can see something flickering. Or if you or when you're scanning and your eyes moving across a computer screen, you can detect flicker, whereas the old human can't do that. But since your nerves, you have more nerves and they're more sensitive, and maybe the chemistry works faster in your rod and cone cells, you're able to pick up the flicker. And let's see, so you'll be able to sense unhealthy lighting, and by that I mean not only the fluorescent flicker, but also both fluorescents and LEDs are lacking a lot of the colors, and you'll be able to sense that because your color perception is so fine-tuned, and you can like detect maybe 40,000 colors instead of 40 colors. And I'll just say, so that you can, if you have lighting that's missing a lot of the colors, it might have one peak in the red, one peak in the blue, one peak in the green, but it's missing the ones in between. So it's not full spectrum anymore. And to the regular person, to the old human, it'll seem like normal colors, but to you it might seem, or to me it might seem kind of like a sickly glow or a sickly color, and you won't think things look beautiful, and you'll feel uncomfortable, and you'll want to go outside in the sunshine. You're also able to sense dangerous people. And you can just be standing next to someone that's a dangerous person and sense it. It's almost like you can tell that their empathy part of their brain's not lighting up. It's like you can sense that. And, see, I scratched out a word, so it's getting hard for me to read this. So you can also sense unhealthy air by how it smells, and unhealthy food by how it tastes. Like, I can tell if something has MSG in it. I can just taste it. And or if a fish oil pill is old, I mean, I can just, even before I swallow it, I can just sense that it's old. And sure enough, if I break it open and smell the oil inside, it's really rancid. So it would have been really bad if I had that fish oil pill. You can smell rancid oils, for example. Like some people, they think their nuts are fresh, but I smell it and I say, don't eat these nuts because you'll get a bad headache. But they can't smell it. Like some of my close family members, I've had that conversation, and they didn't want to throw the nuts away, but I assured them that those nuts were bad. Anyway, yeah, my first migraine was triggered by old nuts, and that's when I learned how to smell them properly, I guess. Your skin's very sensitive. There's a certain bug called a thripe that you can actually feel it biting your skin if you go out in nature, more than, say, other people will say, I don't feel any bugs on me, but they're there. It's just that they don't have the nerves in their skin to feel it, and I know I do. And a lot of people can feel them, but some can feel them more than others. They're called no-see-ums also. Also, you can sense whether the ultraviolet light from the sun is beginning to damage your skin. Because if it doesn't feel good anymore and it starts to feel, it's not like a burn, but it's a specific sensation that it's like you're sensing the DNA damage. And when it gets beyond a certain point that your body won't be able to repair within 24 hours, it feels bad. And that tells me to go out. It's kind of a burning sensation, but it's not the same. It's a different sensation than regular burning. And it's hard to explain. It's almost like something inside your epidermis that's chomping away at something in there. It's hard to explain, but it's definitely a bad feeling. And it protects me, and it tells me with my fair skin to get out of the sun, like within about 10 minutes when I'm near the equator. Okay. Because of your improved perceptions, these new humans are able to read body language and micro expressions in the face. So you'll be able to detect lies, because a lot of the times when people are telling untrue things, their face flinches a little bit, just for such a short amount of time that it's almost like an eat popcorn flash at the movies. You know, it's like subliminal, visually subliminal. So you can't really see it, but I can see it, and a lot of the new humans can see it. Not everyone. Some of the new humans have different senses that are more tuned. Others have other senses that are more tuned. You'll see which one of these you have. We also have, us new humans have keen eyesight, as I said, and less of a filter in our brain. You see, the old humans had a filter set up to where it only let in evolutionarily relevant, or I should say, information that was relevant to survival at the time. So, pre-industrial revolution, all that software was very useful, and it helped us survive because it filtered out all the extraneous information, and it only let in information that was valuable for survival in the moment. But now, things that you need to know to survive are much different, because we have guns, we have a lot of psychopaths, we have, you know, cars that could hit us, and we have, let's see, what all do we have? We have foods that can kill us, or at least foods that can make us sick, or at least foods that can shorten our life, and a lot more crime because the earth is more crowded and there's people fighting over resources. So a lot of the darker aspects of humanity comes out when it gets really crowded. And so for that reason, we need these new humans who are able to read the vibes of others, which would be their electromagnetic fields, which would tell you what their heart rate was and their heart rate variability, and also their brainwave patterns. Well, the old filter would prevent you from seeing many, many patterns, but if you remove the filter or lessen the filter, as in new humans, you're able to see a lot more. Now, it does get complicated, all the data that you have to take in, but for the new humans, since we have more neurons and more interconnections, that helps us to be able to understand the data. Sometimes we can't always see the data in real time, but if we can escape for a few minutes and get quiet, then we can analyze the situation that we just got out of and then figure it out, and then go back in the world and handle it. Most of the new humans have enough neurons and enough interconnections to figure out all the new patterns, and some of the things that the new humans do, like let's just say you're a new human and you're not able to think real quickly in the moment. That's kind of like me, but one of my skills is that I'm able to pick up data over a long period of time, like say a month or a week of all my research, and then I'm able to visualize the future and make predictions And you might call me a visionary, but that's kind of a New Age woo-woo term. And really all it is it's just you're able to put together the data and make predictions. And that's what scientists do. But if you can do that beyond with mathematics, because you can hold the data in your mind and start to see trends, and then you develop a visceral feeling about what's going to happen, you'll be able to predict trends for the future. As an example, I predict that Trump will probably have a huge backlash for all his anti-LGBT agenda, because there's so many LGBTs that need assistance and safety, and they were very happy to get it under Obama. And I see that there's going to be a backlash because Trump is being so against it. Anyway, that's like kind of like a visionary feeling. I know it's going to happen. It's not like a guess, because it has to, because I see all the forces in place. Okay, now I can also, and the new humans can see the consequences of new pesticide, the dangers of, say, nanoparticles, because we typically do the research and we know a lot more than the old human does. And so it's obvious to us that nanoparticles could be dangerous based on data on some nanoparticles being toxic at, like only a few molecules of nanoparticles get into your body and it kills the mammal. It's like a red flag. We see red flags, whereas the old human doesn't want to see them and doesn't see them. They block the red flags out of their mind. And they see it as just anomalies. They don't see it as a trend. I guess I'm rambling. I agree, I'm rambling. Some new humans even figure out the science of acupuncture. See, we used to not know what meridians were made of, but now there's some new humans that are thinking at broader scales and integrating multiple like multidisciplinary approaches, and developing a deeper understanding of what the meridians are, and that would include the fascia and the muscles, and how current is transmitted through the body, how light is transmitted through the body, and how light and electricity and scalar energy, which is like electromagnetic waves superimposed upon each other that maybe look like it's zero, but it's really two waves, a wave going this way and a wave going this way. If they pass each other in the water, it looks like the water's flat, but there's actually a peak here and a peak here. And when those two waves, like say if you have two solitons that pass each other, for a moment when they pass each other, their interference makes it go to zero. But then when they pass each other back again, the waves come back. Well, at that moment, there's a scalar wave there with tension in it. It's like a form of tension that's existing that you think on the old humans would see it. Oh, there's nothing there. It's a zero electromagnetic pulse. But there's a scalar wave there with tension in it that is actually energy. That's the upper wave and the negative wave plus and a minus wave added together. Okay, so that's the scalar energy. So that energy, electricity and light, and even perhaps consciousness make these meridians. And if you just laughed at me for saying consciousness, I admit that consciousness is like co-created with all these phenomena. But it's not really accepted as a scientific term, so maybe I'll just forget I said that. Okay. Let's see. These new people are somewhat different from the old people because they don't have that old filter. And by somewhat different, I mean like their personalities are different. You see, when you remove the old filter, you see so much more. And when you see so much more, that changes how you prioritize where you place your attention. So these new people might not be like all the old humans that are sports fanatics. The new people might even not really understand why sports is such an important thing. They might even think that it's kind of unfair to root for only one team, and all those other people are just as good and just as worthy, so why would you only root for your team? And like, what's the real meaning behind that? They kind of deduce that it's meaningless. And it may be good fun. That's kind of my conclusion. Ultimately, it's all in good fun. And, you don't want to deprive people of having fun, right? But sometimes nowadays, sports get so serious and it's all about money and stuff. It's kind of losing its appeal. It's not really fun anymore, so it seems to be not worth as much, at least in my opinion. And old people all want to dress alike and follow the fashions, whereas the new humans might not really quite follow that logic. They might think, that's just to make money though. Like, what about value to humanity? What if we made the fashions be comfortable and healthy fabrics? That would speak to the new humans, and that would be worth making money because it would be offering a real service to humans, not just looking cool because someone else is wearing it. So the new humans think differently, and they don't quite follow the old rules because they don't see the logic in it, and they're willing to speak up and say so, whereas the old humans just see it as a reality that can't be challenged. Well, these new humans, skip down to, they seem a bit confused why they're the only ones that care about the environment. I know I'm confused. Why am I the only one that cares about the environment? Like in a whole corporation. I was in a whole corporation, and I was me and maybe one or two other people cared about the environment. All the other people and all the management didn't really care about the environment. They just cared about the profits. To me, those go hand in hand, because, like I say, my visionary tendencies tend to say, well, if you don't care about the environment, you're not going to survive very long, because your buyers won't like what you're selling because it doesn't honor the environment. But that's neither here nor there. I'm not with that company anymore. And they get angry, us new humans get angry that the old humans don't even believe there's a problem with the environment. They don't even read the research. They just think that they just automatically assume that because the new humans are a little bit different, they don't like sports, they don't wear the fashions the same way, maybe they don't laugh at the same jokes, that all those new humans must be weird. So if they're saying something, you're not going to listen to it if you're an old human, because those people are weird and you're afraid of things that are weird. The new humans are like, how come you don't even care about the environment? Don't you see what's happening? And it's like they're pulling their hair out, The research clearly shows there's a problem, But the new humans don't understand why the old humans refuse to even read the reports. They just listen to the news, and they claim the news is the right thing. They don't realize the news is biased. But if you read peer-reviewed papers, it's like about the closest to truth as you can get, other than doing the research yourself. And peer-reviewed papers, by the way, that's where a team of unbiased readers all agree that the paper is worthy and that the research was done properly. And like whenever I wrote a paper, I would get questions from the peer reviewers, and they would say, well, you didn't do this right, or you have to redo this data, and I might have to go back and redo the data, but or reword something to make it more clear. But that's the whole purpose of being peer reviewed, so that it's like a legitimate paper. And some peer reviewed papers might be politically biased, but I'm just saying that they're not all that way. So if you read everything else that's out there, you'll get all the opinions together and be able to make a more wise choice than just what the news says. And the new humans don't often understand that the old humans are different. That's the key problem. If you don't know that they're different, and you assume they have the same neurotype that you have, and the same thinking process, and the same sensory process, you are going to read into what they're doing as bad and evil. But really, they don't even know that they have that old human neurotype. They don't know. They're just stuck there. And so we need to have compassion. And this is my closing remark. Maybe the old brains or the old humans, they have more trouble concentrating, or maybe they just don't enjoy studying like the new human does. So if they don't enjoy doing it, they can't force themselves to do it, so they just rather watch the news. And it's just an easier out for them to call that their research. And then we have to have compassion for ourselves, because it might take us a long time to realize all this. And if we can just learn right now that we're all different, and we have to accept everyone else just like they are, because that's how they are, that's how they were born. So by definition, they're perfect, because that's how God made them. That's how the cosmic made them. And the cosmic made us this way. And we have to look for a good reason why we are the way they are, why they are the way they are, and make the best of it. And rather than spend all our energy making them wrong, just accept that they're that way. Knowledge is power. If you know the old humans have a filter that filters out a lot of reality, then that's really freeing to know that. Because you can, it's just like, you don't have to work hard at forgiving anymore, because it's so easy. Because now it's easy to forgive because they don't have a brain like yours, so they're not meant to do that. They still carry the old human neurotype, and it's adorable and wonderful, and it got you to where you are now because they're your predecessors, and now you're the new human, and you can, have the attitude that, wow, I'm the one that has to take responsibility now and contribute to the world and make it a survivable world for our grandchildren. So that's my soapbox, and that's my point of this whole lecture, or this whole discussion. So have compassion for the old brains, and also forgive yourself for not getting the old brain jokes. And we need to forgive ourselves for not fitting in, because we're not supposed to fit in. We have different brains, and we're meant to do something else. We're meant to understand the world and propose a better future, to offer those new ideas, and to try to study and learn how to present our ideas so that they're heard by the old and the new humans. So I'm trying to do that with this little YouTube channel, but I'm not really an expert, and I'm sure a lot of you are better than me. So go out there and make the world a better place. Bye! Thanks for listening. I hope you liked the video. And if you did, please like and subscribe. Thank you so much. Bye.